Hello and welcome. I'm Fuzzy Logic and I've been playing Solve quite a bit of late, and I am going to do a army review of the Greenskin tribes. So I am quite a fan of the Greenskin tribes. They are a hordier army, classic orcs and goblins, but I really enjoy their playstyle. They're quite an aggressive army. They can do a bit of shooting. They have some okay, but it's mostly combat. And they also pack some decent buffs. So let's get into it. So to run through the army choices, we've got three choices of the characters. So we start off with the War Chief, a classic orc. Um, a relatively standard stat line for a champion: skill 4, power 4, defense 4 base, and weapon shield getting that to 5, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, 7 discipline. It's a bit less on the discipline. It's a whole theme of the army. It's a little less brave. Um, Weapons: great weapon, 2-hand weapon. Uh, Usually fancy the great weapon on this boy. 2-hand weapon's not bad with Warcry. It's only 5 points. Warcry being a good ability, +1 power for the entire army. This turn, quite like it. Solid ability. No, not amazing, but solid. And we do have a unique mount for this boy, which is the Wyvern. Do you like the Wyvern? He is, I mean, he's alright. He's no great shakes. Um, Skill 3, just a bit worse than most other flying mounts. Power 5, Defense 5, 4 attacks, 5 wounds, 6 discipline. But yeah, so he's packed an extra attack to a Griffin, but has worse skill and is cheaper than the Manticore. So very comparable, just a little bit of less skill, more damage. Fangs +1 power on the charge, strength 6 on the charge. It's pretty solid. And flying for getting around your Warlord. A nice piece. Has a total, and for 110 points, all told, it's not bad for a flying Warlord with a good number of high strength attacks that can pick their target and pick their fight. Uh, but yeah, on to the next, and the next is the Goblin Shaman, probably the most favoured. He has some excellent spell access. Uh, Not so interested in the damage spells here. 1,000 miles and Shadow Bolts. Eh. But Primal Fury, uh, +1 power and rerolling attacks is very nice. And Hexbruin, -3 defense, also an extremely nice spell. Both single combat kind of buffs or debuffs. So focus more on a single combat, but a nice set of skills. And then we have the Goblin King, who's an interesting piece. He is by far the weirdest and cheapest hero around. Um, he's again a normal stat line, apart from starts at defense 3, 4 skill, 4 power, uh, and I'd often give him a great weapon, give some higher strength attacks, so that make it defense 3, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, 7 discipline, so pretty low. But he's got an interesting ability, the Power of Many. All your goblins are fearless this turn, activate once per battle. Interesting. It's one use only, but it's kind of like a get out of jail for goblins and leadership. But their leadership is bad anyway, so whether you think it's good or not is another matter. I enjoy him. I think you have to play him in a certain way if you're going to run him. Okay, on to the battle line. So we have the Orcs. Orc Warrior. Skill 3, Power 4, Defense 4, 1 attack, 1 wound, 6 discipline. So low on the discipline, pretty solid on the stat line. You can run 2-hand weapons. Does put that point up by 1 and bring him down to Defense 3, which is not so great. So I wouldn't be tempted to do that. I can't say I'm generally tempted by these boys when I'm choosing here. I think like if you yeah, I just struggle to take the Orcs. I think they aren't as good value for the stat line you get. I mean, he's strength 5 on the charge. It's not to be sniffed at, but with what I like is some more of the goblins, but we'll get to them in a bit. Orc brutes next. So these are the big boys, 11 points a model. They are slow with their heavy armor and great weapon. No other weapon choices, but skill 3, so hit questionably, but power 5 base, 6 on the charge. Very, very powerful hits if you do hit. Defense 5, very solid. 1 attack, 1 wound, 7 discipline. So still not high in the discipline, and it's just relying on those skill 3 hits. I think is a little too expensive at 110 points for what they offer. 10 wounds and defense 5 is decent, but there's with 3 being the best, he's getting his 3 up save most of the time, so they will go down to fire and in combat, and they are quite expensive. So this is where we get into the bits that I like more. The goblins, and we're going to look at both because they're the same stat line, it's just the weapon choice that's different. So we have a hand weapon shield, and we have a spear. Skill 3, power 3, defense 3 with the shields. They both have it though. 1 attack, 1 wound, 5 discipline. So bad discipline, but and a generally average stat line. But 4 points a model. These boys are cheap. 60 points, getting 15. You can run them wide and get a good number of attacks. Spears, you can run deeper. Still get the attacks, don't get the charge bonus, but I think a very good budget infantry choice and good volume of attacks. So I prefer the goblins. So now into the raiders, and might come out of theme as I just prefer goblins through this, but yes, we are going on to the boar riders. Another solid mounted choice. Skill 3, power 4, defense 5 with the shield, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, 6 discipline. So low on the discipline, 19 points a model, so not the most expensive. Power 5 on the charge. It's I mean, it's a solid piece, extra pip of defense to an average orc. Got the speed of cavalry, so it is by no means a bad choice, but yeah, it's just I find just a little underwhelming. Again, you're relying on skill 3 hits, which is a risky business. And then we go to the Wolf Riders. And again, something I prefer. Now, they are the budgetist of all budget cavalry. So they are skill 3, power 3, defense 3, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, 5 discipline. You can give them short bows. I generally don't because I'm not usually playing the kite game with them. Their shooting is underwhelming. It puts them up from 12 points a model to 14, and you get probably a round of shooting, maybe 2. So not my favourite upgrade. And as a unit, hand weapon and shield gives them the +1 strength on the charge. With these boys being swift, you are likely to be getting charges with them. Excellent flank defenders, excellently cheap, slightly vulnerable to the old multi-wound, but even if people are shooting bolt throwers and cannons at them, they are cheap. Like a cannon shot, even a 3 cannon shot removes maximum of 3 models, which is 36 points, which is, painful, but when you compare it to some of the big cavalry units, not that bad. So yeah, really like these boys. Fast, good flank defenders and attackers. Orc Boar Chariot, quite a powerful chariot. Skill 3, power 4, 5 defense, 3 attacks, 5 wounds, 6 discipline. So again, low on the discipline. Defense 5 means it does hang around, but if you lose that combat, you're likely to run. Hand weapons and crushing charge makes it power 7 on the charge, which is very nice, but 5 attacks at skill 3. Again, we're running into the problem of not enough attacks and not enough hitting. Okay, so now on to the range support. So we have the short bows. 90 points. So 9 points. No, not 9 points model. 6 points model because there's 15 of them. There's skill 3, power 3, defense 2, 1 attack, 1 wound, 5 discipline, short bow. So short bow, you need to do a bit of advancing before you can shoot. Usually you get first turn shots in, but often these guys are being threatened by the combat not too long after. They have low defense, so they are vulnerable to shooting, and once people in, they die in droves. And with the discipline low, they're likely running afterwards. But they have shots. 15 shots at power 3 is not to be sniffed at. They definitely have their place. Not my favourite. I think I just like the combat of the orcs. That's what I lean into, so I am not so much a fan of those. The bolt throwers, cheap, 40 points. A model you can get to. If they get into combat, they explode because of low discipline. But a bolt thrower, skill 3, 3 shots, power 6, 48, and lethal. For 40 points, you can take off a knight or two, you've got your points back. If you can look after them for the game, then they hold theirs. And even without holding their points, they are a distraction. So it's not the end of the world if you lose them. It's fine. You're like, okay, you've dedicated points and time and effort to go kill them. Meanwhile, I've been working on something else. So, fine unit. The stone thrower I do like. It's the most budget stone thrower you can get. The catapult is just as good as anyone else's. Range 48, 2d3, power 5. The reason it's cheaper is because it's only defense 4 and it's only discipline 5. So again, if it makes combat, there's pretty much no chance it's holding. The other races often have at least a chance to hold and possibly even win, but these guys generally explode. But they are cheap, so not a bad choice. Puts out some range damage. And then we have the two big stuff, which is trolls and giants. So troll, I love a troll actually. It's one of my, I think probably an underrated unit. So we start with a hand weapon, although you can give him great weapon. I like to if I can. Skill 3, power 5, defense 5, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, 6 defense. And 93 points for 3. I'd like to try and run 4 if I can. 128 points. It's good defense, good power. You're move 12, so you're likely to be charging, or not unlikely at least, which means power 6, which is very nice. 3 attacks, 3 wounds. Bit vulnerable to the old lethal shots, as many are, but I really like these units in general. And as a budget option, 78 points for 3 is not bad at all. Low discipline, so if you're losing, you're running most times, but a solid choice. Okay, so there we go. That is the army list. So let's look at some of my choices, and we will start with the orc war boss. So this is my orc war boss list. So we have gone with a couple of the fast units. Love the budget wool, 60 points. They can do really good work for that, and a bigger unit of trolls with great weapons. So this is the real punch of the list. Strength 5 and 6. They're most points in the list in a unit, but they provide real punch. The only issue is the hitting. It's common with a lot of these armies. And then I've gone maximum goblins in the core. Buffed up the unit sizes a bit. These will march towards your enemy. You wanted the charge, and you want to pick your war cry turn, so you want as many combats at once as possible from the whole army. Then you buff all their strength, and you rely on volume of attacks. And then I've got just a cheap great weapon, Wyvern Lord. He'll fly around behind the units, keeping himself safe until he pops out and tries to pick up a flank or go for an exposed war machine or something like that. So yeah, I like this list. It's solid. I mean, it suffers from leadership. As soon as you start losing, things start running, and you can be in serious trouble quickly. But it has some punch, and you can run at some stuff with reasonable effectiveness. Now onto the mage. Really like the mage list. Um, I've got 2 goblin mobs. So let's look at the mage first. I'm just running a budget Primal Fury mage. Just the Primal Fury. Hex is also extremely tempting, but I've tried to keep the cost down to fill as much as the rest of the list and make it more combat effective. So I have got the Primal Fury. I've got a Stone Thrower, bit of range threat. It's not the fastest, especially with the 2 goblin mobs. So just a couple of lobs of the Stone Thrower down range, keep people honest, do a bit of damage. Then we've got 2 goblin mobs as the core, running down the middle. Again, the trolls with great weapon. Now these guys in this list are even more dangerous because you've got Primal Fury. Primal Fury on trolls is amazing. They're defense 5, so that's good, but this will make them on the charge offense a power 7 and re-rolling to hit. So they're 12 attacks, suddenly re-rolling to hit, power 7 kills most things. It does a lot of damage. It's about getting there with them, but yeah, it's a very solid unit. And then got a bit of change, so I've thrown an extra couple of wolves in on these 2 units. The usage of him is to try and get an early combat with either the trolls or the goblins, buff it to make me win that combat, and then the second turn he is just another wolf unit that can flank and be fast and annoying. As soon as he's used his true primal furies, he's just like, if you look after him, he's worth points, but I will not hesitate to use him in combat. But yeah, so I like this list as well. I generally like the goblins, and then we get on to the pointed stick of the Goblin King, which I think you have to run in a certain way because of his power of many, which is often not very useful at all. So you run him in a Goblin Horde. It's what I've had pretty good success with this actually. 3 Goblin Spear mobs. The whole idea being the power of many makes me stand, so I can make the use of the spears over a couple of rounds. 1 Goblin mob, bit more offensive, get the charge on it, try and do some damage before you run off and hopefully rally. And then the flankers, classic troll. These guys are budget trolls, just the hand weapons. They don't benefit from the power of many, so I'm not investing in them. And then the wolf riders, which are just fast and effective. The other sneaky bits are 2 banners of valor on the goblins. So if you charge them and say you kill a bunch, kill even 10 of them, right? I've still got 2 ranks, the front rank and the second rank, so that's +2 to my discipline, and I've got the banner of valor. So that one turn where you pop the power of many, I can expect to be rolling a 7 with a reroll on the leadership, which should pass like a healthy chunk of the time. There's always a chance you fail twice on the 8s or above, but it is braver than you think, and then suddenly you've got 20 or whatever damage, so let's call it 16 even, goblins turn around and start poking you with spears. And it's just the grinding down your opposition game. Some people just don't have the tools to deal with this many wounds and this many goblins. There is over 100 wounds in this army, which is just a bucket ton compared to the majority of people. So I've been really enjoying this list, and it does some good work. And there you go, my 3 lists and the Greenskin tribes. I really like them as an army. They are definitely flawed with that low leadership. I struggle to run the orcs. I just am not a fan of the orcs in general. I must admit. I think they could use something doing to them, apart from the warlord, who's fine. But the actual orc units just feel weaker than volume of attacks from goblins and cheap price of goblins. But there you go. And yeah, but if you want an aggressive army, there's definitely a lot worse you can do. It will definitely teach you to fear flank charges and things like that, where you lose combat by a few and just run off with your horde of unit against one measly like flyer or something. But yeah, it's a good learning experience. And yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the ranked ladder.